Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. My name is Luke Irvin, and today we've got an epic episode lined up for you. But before we jump into that, just want to let you guys know real quick, we've got some brand new merchandise up on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 new shirts as well. If you like today's episode, please also leave us a review on your favorite podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow our email newsletter. With nothing else to say, let's jump into today's episode. Well, hello, A Taste of AZ listeners. I am one of your co-hosts today, Luke Irvin, along with Eric Walters, and these 2 gentlemen who will introduce themselves shortly. But first, real quick, got to plug our new hats. We've got merch on our website now. We've got 2 shirts, this awesome hat. Thank you for supporting local, which you guys are already doing by listening. So with that said, would you gentlemen please introduce yourself and what we're here to talk about?
Sure. I'm Ryan Lawrence, and I'm here with my partner, Thomas Giddings. And we are the founders of Suncliffe Gin.
And there's one more of you that's not here with us today, right?
Yeah, that's Claire. She's in New York.
Okay. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But real quick, you guys are having your spirits in New York now, correct? Or your gin?
Yeah, we launched in Arizona around a year and a half ago, and we just launched in New York this spring, which has been really
awesome.
Exciting. Yeah,
That's really so to jump from Arizona to New York.
Yeah.
I just thought we'll miss everything in between and just
It's the Midwest, man. That's the heartland, dude. Come on.
Well, it's interesting too because the only other Arizona spirit that I've heard about in New York is Whiskey Del Bach, which is in a way akin to what you guys are doing with the storytelling of the desert through spirits. But before we get too deep into all that, bring us back to the beginning. How did you guys link up, and was that the beginning of your spirits journey, or is there a story before that?
So, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from Arizona originally. I was born in South Africa, grew up in
I thought
London.
you were just from Flagstaff. It
Right.
sounds like a Flagstaff.
Totally, very typical, right?
No, I'm from Flagstaff.
Grew up in London, and then I moved to New York for work, non-related to gin. Photography is what brought me to New York kind of around 10 years ago.
Nice.
And then I was actually on a photo job in Tucson around 5 years ago. And I was visiting, and I had a friend, and we were waiting for a table at the Cup Cafe, a Hotel Congress. And we were just in the tap room having a drink. And Ryan walked in. He was with a friend, and he knew the friend I was with, and that's how we met, randomly in real life. In Tucson.
Shout out to Tigger's Tap Room.
What year was that approximately?
2017.
Yeah.
2017? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so did you just kick it off right away? How did that evolve into where we're at today?
Okay, no, there's quite a lot of steps in between, with COVID playing a big part of it. So,
And you were based in New York at the time, so I was there a year and a half ago, and then we actually started hanging out more, and then we got lucky that we got locked down in Arizona in 2020. We were both here, and then that was the beginning of Suncliffe. It started with a lot of martinis, a few more martinis, and then we wanted to get creative with that, and we were visiting my parents on our first break from lockdown in Sedona, where they had just moved from Flagstaff. And we weren't going inside. It was like 6 feet from my mom. We stayed in the RV. It was super separate era.
Yeah.
But that brought us outdoors a lot, and we were hiking like a ton. It was supposed to 2 weeks. We were just outside in that beautiful landscape, and we're like, all of these trees are juniper, and all these berries are on the floor. Like nobody's like, that's what you use for gin, right? So we picked some, made a few batches, and started sharing it with our friends, just macerating with vodka, basically. Real rough stuff, but the flavor, the story was kind of there. We used ponderosa pine from the beginning with the native juniper, and that brings out this amazing flavor, which we'll definitely get into.
Yeah.
That was kind of the inception of
it was very
Suncliffe.
much just like hobbying. We were we were like drinking martinis at home, or like we were in a little pod, and we would like, we'd like all be going over to a friend's, like we were in our pod, right? So we just like, we're going over to someone's for like a barbecue or whatever, and we just were like taking it around. And then we actually went back to New York. So we both at different times in our lives have lived in New York full time, kind of which circles back to the beginning, why New York kind of was the next market for us. So we were back there in the summer. This is still 2020. And we took a bunch of the dry ingredients with us, and we're just kind of like batching it up and take it to like friends' houses for picnics or whatever. And a close friend of ours and neighbor, Claire, who is now number 3 or number 1 maybe.
Probably number 1, yeah.
In the trio of Suncliffe. She's like, this is actually really, really interesting. I love the story, this Arizona. She'd visited us before, I believe, in Arizona.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, she was into the tail and the taste and just...
And she was bored and wanted something to do.
Yeah.
So she was like, let's do this together. So there would be no Suncliffe without Claire's driving force.
Right.
It's almost like you guys had that, there's that spark there, but it could have been easily one of those things where it's like, just kind of,
yeah.
kind of falls by the wayside, but they're like,
right.
no.
I mean,
no,
a personal couple and a
Yeah.
professional couple can equal disaster.
Yeah.
So, we have a lot of ideas that just come and then they're out the window
sure.
the next day. For someone else to come in and say, okay, this could actually be a thing. And as we've found out, a trio is absolutely necessary because you need to be 2 against 1 sometimes, to get anything done.
That very, very true. Right? There was a book I think you recommended me, right? The E-Myth.
Yes.
Right, where it says each business should have a manager, a visionary, and the technician.
Yes.
Right, and
Right.
it kind of makes sense, right? Some people, there's 2 of us, so we kind of share, but when you kind of have all of those pieces,
Totally.
yeah.
And
That's the
so...
I feel like I can imagine her personality without even meeting her, just based on kind of how she came into the fold.
Right. Totally.
Is she very detail oriented?
For sure. I'm not going to say who I think fulfills which role of those 3, but I think we definitely each have our strong skills.
Okay.
Whether that be creative, numbers, management, getting stuff done, whatever. It just really works. So
What is his strength? You tell me.
Not going there.
What?
Yeah.
Plead the fifth?
Yeah, exactly.
He's got all 3.
Yeah,
That's the
there we
safe
go.
answer.
Right. So actually, none of us come... Well, I used to work in bars and restaurants in London.
Okay.
I come from England, which loves gin. It's a real gin and tonic country, you know? So I grew up drinking gin, and I worked in bars and restaurants through college, all that kind of thing. But as a group, we don't really come from the alcohol world, and definitely not from alcohol making.
Okay.
I was a photographer. You were...
Set designer, art director.
Right.
Oh, nice.
And Claire comes from a fashion background. So
I can see why the vibe is so spot on.
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we were kind of like, how? Okay, we have this idea. Now we have to make it happen.
Yeah.
We think we can make it look really pretty, but how do you make alcohol? Again, COVID in that sense worked in our favor. There was a lot of people who had a lot of time on their hands to give us a lot of advice. And that is something, we can't even say enough how many people have supported us, given us time, given us just like connections, given us everything in Arizona and just across the country. We've been so lucky.
What kind of people are you talking with? I imagine I could...
So to begin with, we're talking to lawyers, we're talking to distilleries, we're talking to all that kind of
Cork
stuff.
makers, bottle manufacturers, label printers. But
Yeah,
the
to begin with,
alcohol people were really bored. They were all making hand sanitizer. And they were actually, it was a great time because they were excited about an inspired project that was, new and kind of fresh. So that, I don't think, if we started it earlier or later, it would never have come through because we just, as newbies, we needed that help and that learning, like that year of learning was super important.
Well, and it's insightful to know that you need to ask those questions, right? Because that's like you can't really pay for that type of stuff. I guess you could get a consultant or things like that, but when you get welcomed into an industry the way that we've kind of experienced as well, you can't really pay for those types of opportunities. Or like, obviously you guys make a great product, but for Christina, who we were talking about before the podcast, for it to be on her radar, that's a very important thing to kind of start getting some momentum.
the hospitality side is just amazing.
We love it. I'm never going back. The hospitality is like, I love this industry. It's so hospitable. Everyone's just so sweet.
Well,
so
right
nice
now, we should give a big shout out to Valentine and the bar that we're in right now. I'm drinking a mesquite chai. We have a beautiful background. And of course, we're here because they're a partner with you guys. So we'll touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
But to bring it back where we were, you were talking
we're just finishing about how we actually even made it exist. So it kind of, apart from all the corks, the labels, the everything, when we were like, okay, we need to figure out the juice, we had these ingredients that we'd foraged and still do. We wild forage all the native ingredients ourselves. But we had this kind of pile of stuff
Twigs.
We were like, how do we make this into gin? Because we were just soaking it. You were just getting this brown liquid, So we found this amazing distillery called Lock and Union. They have the most amazing custom Carl copper still. They have the ability to do...
Well, it's a dedicated gin still.
It's a dedicated gin
and
still.
so it makes really nuanced, beautiful gin. It has the beautiful vapor basket infusion method. Then it goes through how many plates of...
Lots.
A lot of plates that make a very smooth...
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
we need
go.
to do a video of how to make gin with these guys. Like I just envisioned it.
Yeah, get in the car.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So we just kind of called them up. Somehow got on the phone to the owner, and he loved the idea. We drove over there. This is actually in Napa. So we actually forage everything, and we drove to Napa to meet with them and just kind of figure out how do we turn all these roots and berries into... And we just worked with them. We did 5 rounds of R&D, kind of spoke to some of our friends, did a lot of kind of market research amongst friends and some friends who were bartenders to just kind of vocalize what we were tasting, how we wanted it to taste.
So you didn't just walk in and you're like, how do we do this? And you're like, oh, you just throw it in like this and in a cheesecloth and you're done. It wasn't that simple.
No, we were super, super hands-on, but very lucky again that they had... I mean, we weren't making, especially at the beginning, we were making such a small amount. So for someone to kind of invest this much time into us, not even knowing if we'd ever scale, if we'd ever work with them again, was amazing. And we've kind of found lots of bumps along the way. So there's, as Ryan mentioned earlier, one of the ingredients we use is ponderosa pine bark.
Ponderosa pine bark.
And we use manzanita berries as well. And when we submitted the recipe to the TTB, they came back and were like, actually, these ingredients, you can't use them. They're not GRAS, which is like, they're not generally regarded as safe.
Which was a no-go for us. The ponderosa is so integral to the taste because it has that vanilla kind of pininess when you go up to a tree in the sun and in Flagstaff in the summer, and they just smell like chocolate or vanilla. They have that that molecule that, like oak does, it has that as well, that kind of softens the wine flavors. Ponderosa has that. So to use that in gin softens all those typically kind of Christmassy, air quotes, Christmassy flavors that a lot of people don't really love about gin.
Well, and there's something ironic, too, about them saying it's not safe to consume, but you're consuming alcohol as well.
Right. They didn't want to hear that argument. I was like, this... I
don't know about these natural ingredients.
Right.
Sure, whatever you say.
We were really lucky. We were put in touch with someone at the FDA who I thought they would just shut it down immediately, but this person was really open to the conversation, and so we kind of began this 2 to 3 month dialogue where we were looking through like scientific journals, historical evidence of it being used in, especially like indigenous communities who've used these products and eaten them or for some way or infused them.
Right.
And eventually we had to go through all the scientific, the Latin names for the plants, and we got there. They signed off on those 2 things, which means that our product is totally unique because no other food or beverage legally, at least, uses those. So it means that we ended up with this gin that is so kind of, we use the phrase terroir specific. It really is a portrait of especially kind of this like northern Arizona area, which is...
the unique group of botanics that all grow in a specific place that's where we live.
Yeah.
When you found out that you couldn't use the pine, you must have been really excited knowing that the government typically moves really fast and they're super easy to work with.
Yeah, we were like, this is going to be no problem.
It's like, you're not approving vaccines or anything. Like, we need you to work on the ponderosa for us.
By the way, guys, we had some gin we wanted to get approved. But that's incredible because, to go to that lengths based on the vision that you wanted or the smell and taste that you wanted and kind of that storyline as well, because obviously the ponderosa pine plays into the foraged ingredients and the desert, or not necessarily the desert, but the region itself. How long did it take you, and like how many sips of gin do you think you did until you dialed in exactly the way it is now?
Who can count?
Yeah, it was a lot of gin.
I mean, there was the 5.
Summer.
I mean, we also initially we had I think 7 different recipes we started with that were like a very... we were trying the saguaro, we were getting the jasmine, everything was invited to that party.
Well, and it got kind of glossed over because you guys have done it so many times, and I'm familiar with the fact that you do it, but we didn't even really dig into the fact that you guys are foraging for these ingredients.
Right.
How many different sites are you going to? How many different ingredients are you foraging for without giving away the secret juice?
I mean, it's been, we're new, so we don't have exactly our routine yet. We harvesting on private property for a lot of it. We don't need. Gin is similar to alcoholic tea, so we're kind of making the tea bag. So we're not making the juice from the juniper. We're putting alcohol through that to flavor it with that. So we don't need huge amounts, but
I'd say we've learned a lot about foraging, though. We didn't.
Definitely.
I had never foraged previous to this, apart from, I hadn't foraged edible products before this. I was like, foraging flowers doesn't count as foraging. So we learned one of the really interesting things, I think, was juniper. First year we went to all these different juniper trees, all kind of around the Coconino National Forest, picking, and we found particular trees that had loads of berries, and we're like, amazing. Next year we go back, they have none. We didn't realize that juniper is actually on a 2 to 3 year cycle.
Oh, really?
It's a 2 to 3 year cycle for juniper. So we're like, oh. Now we have to find all the different
that and you're like, oh, shit.
But they're not all on the same schedule.
Yeah, okay.
It's a moving thing. So at least, but we're definitely getting to know the trees as our friends. They definitely, we're like, we know your cycle now.
Totally.
We'll see you in a couple of years.
Yeah.
That's part of the terroir as well.
Right.
Like,
And as you said, the rain and
relationship
drought.
with the earth.
Yeah.
So what is it actually like to go out and forage? I mean, it's pretty intuitive, but how are you finding these areas? Is it like, are you researching online to know that they grow in specific regions?
So it's interesting, I think, actually, just to go back to the name, Suncliffe.
Right.
Like the reason it's even called Suncliffe is because this, it was Memorial Day weekend
2020, yeah.
Right. So I kind of remember it really specifically. Your aunt had come down from
Tahoe.
Right. Ryan's from Flagstaff, was helping his parents retire down to Sedona. And we were kind of seeing this juniper all over the place, and she had rented this property, and we went into her backyard, and it had all these juniper trees. So that's the first place we picked juniper from, was Suncliffe Drive, hence why it's called Suncliffe.
And we just couldn't let go of that name. It just evoked everything warm, and also the earth, the cliff, and then an E on the end.
Right, which is how Suncliffe Drive is spelled. But yeah, that is one of our bigger battles, is remembering.
Don't forget that E.
Well, it brings up this vision of just like sun hitting the cliff with a juniper berry, you know, getting glistened by the sunlight, and you guys just pick it and go and make some delicious stuff out of it.
And that's the I mean, when you're talking about the berries, how do we find them? They really glow in the environment. They're this beautiful glaucous, waxy blue, and the earth is red. So they really stand out when they're ready to go. They're like at night in your headlights. They like glow in the dark when they're ready, and in the day, like they stand out so intensely against the red earth. So
well, it's funny because I've been on hikes in the part of the state that has juniper berries, and I always see them, and I feel so cool because I turn to my fiance, I'm like, that's what gin's made out of. Right. And I'm like, I know what a berry looks like.
And then that's the limit of our knowledge.
Yeah,
like,
that's as far as it ever goes.
You're hired.
Right?
Yeah, you're ready to go.
I kind of created your guys' product before you created it, really. I am the originator of gin. But no, like, for me, I never would have even thought to take it to that next level, but it's not to make it sound like it's not a great idea, but it's not like a super complicated thing to do, at least in theory, to take those berries.
It's elegant. It's just like, there's the berries, they do this. Now we have a nice gin that's very Arizona. That feels like.
But I'm sure the legal side of things is so complicated. I mean, growing up in England, the alcohol laws in America are so different and very state specific. I'm sure people get to that step and are like, no, actually, I've got to move on to another project.
Right.
Yeah.
But in terms of the concept, I think because you'd grown up in northern Arizona, like these plants were more familiar to you. For me, it was like, I kind of knew about juniper, but I had no idea what ponderosa was. I had no idea what manzanita was. I had no idea what these other things were. That I think just because you'd grown up there, for you, it was kind of like...
manzanita berries are trail candy.
Right.
You just suck on those. It's like, it tastes like apple candy. I don't know if you've ever...
Really? Interesting. No, I don't trust myself to eat anything that I didn't bring with me.
No, it's beautiful. You can see it has the really nice, like, lacquered-looking wax that's red.
Yeah,
And then the berries... They're mostly a stone with skin,
but
you suck on the skin, and it's like a really sweet, almost orangey apple flavor.
like
Manzanita,
apple.
it means little apple.
Yeah.
Manzanita.
Yeah, I knew that, but I've never had the fruit myself. But now I got to
Don't
look
bite
them up
it.
and
Just like kind of keep it in
I'm going
your
to
mouth
text you.
on the
Hey, can I
trail.
eat this?
I'm not taking no responsibility for that.
But so you get from the idea phase to actually having a product that you like the taste and you're ready to kind of go to market with it.
Right.
What comes next?
Well, the design, that kind of was really, really important to us as well. We wanted to, and this is something that Claire really worked with us on, we wanted to create a gin that really evoked Sedona in Arizona, but in a kind of a way that felt modern, felt clean, felt inclusive. When I think of what gin is, I think of other brands that, potentially look very dark, or they're very blue or very green, very old man's club. It can feel like that.
Sure.
Usually not in a clear bottle. We gave a bottle to a friend and he was like, I didn't know gin was clear.
Oh, really? That's
Thought it was blue, red,
Right,
or whatever.
yeah.
Something
Like,
like
it
that.
tastes like it could be blue.
Right.
Yeah.
And our gin definitely has this warmth. It evokes the sun, the cliff, the Arizona, the warm forest. So we wanted to show that. And one of the big things, apart from like the cap, was the base. And you see that's red. And obviously it's such a simple idea to paint the base red, but it really gives this kind of Bell Rock, Sedona Red
Absolutely.
Rock feel.
Yep.
And for our first batch, we hand painted every bottle ourselves. We cut a stencil, got some custom spray paint, and spent 2 days. I got like cramps.
Yeah, you
Just
were
like,
spray paint. I was loading bottles upside down. Claire had the stencil and was going around.
Right. But, again, like how we were with the ingredients, we were like, well, we have this idea. And for us to go to market, it's so integral to kind of create something that we really, really believe in. We're not just going to, even though it's like we're going to have to hand paint every one. And it was 2,000 bottles we hand painted. It took days. We're like, this is what our vision and we need to stick to it. So, and we did. So, yeah, we kind of created Suncliffe. And this is kind of where Valentine begins to kind of really play into our story. We had come up to, again, before the product had been finished, Ryan and I had come up for actually a Valentine's weekend. We were staying at the Rise Hotel just around the corner, and we were like, we were just talking to the people who work there, and they're like, is there any way you could recommend for dinner? And they were like, this new restaurant, Valentine's.
We were like, perfect.
Valentine's.
Because this is our Valentine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we came
We were
here.
doing it the weekend after.
Right.
But
was like
still
a month
celebrating,
later.
right?
Right,
Celebration,
totally. And
yeah.
they were like, there's this amazing new restaurant, Valentine's. This was this would be February 21. They were like, it's just opened down the corner. You should definitely check it out. And we came down and had this amazing meal. And Chad
was our waiter still. He was
Right.
waiting tables.
He was being front of house waiting tables. And we loved kind of the ethos of the restaurant.
Yeah,
It's
their
all
whole approach.
Valentine, the name is because Arizona is the Valentine state.
Yeah.
Right.
We're in the 1912 bar, which was the year that Arizona became a state on Valentine's Day. They're like, it's deep here. They go through with everything.
And the menu, we felt just really focused on Arizona plants, Arizona food, Arizona, just really
Traditions,
showcasing the cocktails, everything. We're just really showcasing Arizona, which was obviously so what we were about to.
And in a modern, contemporary way that didn't feel like,
Yeah.
that Arizona where it's just the cactus and the Roadrunner. They go a little deeper than that.
Sure,
here.
absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
And so when we kind of explained to him, we were like, we're like working on this gin and hopefully soon it's going to be a thing and da-da-da. And so when we went and made our first run, Valentine's like the first, we drove down through, we were driving to Tucson through
Where we
Phoenix
live,
and we like came in and gave Blaze and Chad
Our first bottle.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, awesome, this looks cool. And talking about like the ripple effect and helping industry, like they shared it with so many of their friends because they like really believed in it. And like from that, and then from it sitting on the bar in Valentine.
Yeah, they gave it a really nice spot right in the front row, center, so people could see it. And that that simple thing meant a lot. Like so many people would come, hey, what is that? We want to see what that is. Oh, it's this cool new Arizona gin.
And I think it was even
and the word really spread nicely for us.
Right, and they just opened this cocktail bar, which is kind of like this, which is where we're sitting, this kind of speakeasy-esque, like 1912 bar. Again, like focusing on really kind of the 5 C's.
Yeah,
right?
the 5 C's,
the menu riffs on the
cocktail
5
list.
C's.
Okay.
And so they were kind of sharing it, and from that kind of began our Arizona journey. And shortly after that, we met our distributor.
Direct. We didn't have a distributor when we
Right,
dropped
we
the
made
bottles.
all
Like,
of our
this is
product.
great. How can we get it? We're like, well, we'll let you know in a minute.
Yeah.
Right, we're
See
like,
if I have any in his trunk. Yeah.
right, exactly.
Literally.
We were working on So to begin, maybe you can speak a little bit about the Navajo Water Project, which was kind of a big part of our kind of launch.
Real quick before you do that, let's get a quick message, and then we'll jump right back into that.
Of course,
yeah.
Real quick message for you guys. If you guys are enjoying today's episode, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our email newsletter for all of the cool spots to eat and drink around town, as well as upcoming events and fun stuff like that. Also, we've got some brand new merch on our website, including these Thanks for Supporting Local hats and 2 brand new t-shirts. So make sure to check out our website for more. Now back to the podcast. Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing us to take that quick break. I really want to try this, though. I got to try some before we keep talking about it so I can have a taste to analyze
I can't believe
while you're talking about it.
We haven't had any gin yet.
Yeah, right?
I wonder, so you were talking about the colors of the color of the bottle. I'd like to, that'd be cool to test to see if it really makes people put your gin in 2 different color bottles and see if it affects, right? Because you said there's that, I don't know, it tastes green or whatever. It tastes blue sometimes.
Right.
I don't know.
The power of suggestion is strong.
Right?
No, I know what you mean. And I think a lot of that is just kind of the typical flavor profile of gin. It's like, you know, especially when you have tried cheaper stuff, it tastes overly botanical, in my opinion. And not to make this about a different gin, but the gin that changed it for me was Blue Clover's gin out of Old Town. And I started doing that with just a little bit of grenadine and some sparkling water. And I was like, okay, this is something I could definitely drink, and it's not overly botanical. And of course, there's different types of gin. But now that we're about to take a sip of yours, talk to us a little bit about the flavor profiles and kind of what you were going for.
So the juniper that we harvest here in Arizona is less piney. It has a more subtle, kind of fruity, earthy. When you taste it on its own, it almost has a little bit of a bready flavor.
Okay.
Which we think is really nice. Like it's chill and easy to work with. The ponderosa, like I said, brings out a kind of butterscotch rounding flavor, and then the manzanita with that kind of appley orangey sweetness, and then there's also some western elderflower, which grows wild here.
Really?
Surprisingly, yeah.
That's really cool.
In the riparian areas, there's
the
elderflower.
first thing I get when I smell it is like primarily like a citrusy, like a lemony type component.
I think you get the citrus, as Ryan said. The manzanita has almost like a little citrusy note to it. Yeah. So I think you get a little bit of the elderflower and the manzanita on the nose.
Mm-hmm. And the pine, there is like a limon in the pine that kind of comes through.
That's a terpene, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. That's in pine. Same vanilla and pine and vanilla. It's all in there. But we actually don't add very much citrus. A lot of gins use a lot of citrus. We don't.
You don't use any citrus?
We use a little bit of orange.
Oh, okay.
Just to kind of
dried orange peel,
bring it out. But it's like the most minimally citrus gin out there. But it just happens on its own.
Sure.
And it mixes well with fresh citrus.
Did you say there's vanillin in there as well?
That's the main molecule of the ponderosa pine that makes it so amazing.
Yeah, we don't add vanilla. It's within the pine bark naturally.
It comes from the pine bark.
It's interesting because I'm sure you both have had barrel-aged gin before, and you as well. I know you have, Eric. It, of course, gets that barrel-y component, which a lot of the times is vanilla-like. And to me, when I was tasting this, it almost has like a little bit of that woody barrel-aged quality, despite the fact that it's not. And I don't really get that from gins when I typically have them. I get like that very, very botanical, very floral flavor that tastes almost medicinal, whereas the way that you get that kind of smooth vanilla component and the citrus, I can't imagine how great this would be in a cocktail, because those are the exact type of things that when you see cocktails with gin, they play into those flavors.
Totally.
Definitely. And because of that, we're winning over whiskey drinkers who like sipping it. They're like, oh, okay, you can sip this like you do whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are very surprised by how smooth it is.
Yes.
We use corn as our base, which I think really helps kind of soften things out as well and give it that kind of velvety mouthfeel, which people don't necessarily associate with gin. For us, I think it's always really interesting when we're doing tastings at a spirit store or like an event. Someone always comes in, he's like, oh, no, I don't drink gin. You know, I drank it in college and was sick one day and, that kind of thing. And then our kind of favorite victory is when someone tastes it and then they buy a bottle, someone who like doesn't, inverted commas, doesn't like gin.
Why is that the story of everyone's like first or one of their first gin experiences?
Why does
everyone over drink on gin?
Because it tastes great when you start. It's like, this is all right. This isn't vodka.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was also
Drink it.
like our parents' generation were very into gin, you know, and I think it like kind of went out of favor, and I think it's really coming back now because, as you said, people are realizing it's super versatile. It's also, you know, I think vodka really had a moment because people just wanted to drink and not taste anything, whereas I think people are now, you know, people have become so engaged in like, where does their food come from? Where is it sourced? And now people want to kind of the same thing about how they drink. They want to drink less, but kind of understand really where it's come from, how it's made, like how can it be mixed into cocktails? Like, what is this adding? And I think that's kind of, we've really hit this moment now, especially in Phoenix, you know, I'm sure it's changed so much in the last 5 to 10 years, how people are eating and drinking here. And it's really catching up on the beverage side, you know?
Yeah, drinking culture in all of Arizona, but especially Phoenix, has gotten so much more intelligent.
Yeah.
And like,
well, in
conscious.
the way that food and alcohol is blended from, you know, a place like this that is going to a level of depth with their cocktails and their food that it begs to be intertwined together, right? Like if you are over at Valentine and you have, you know, this crazy meal with whatever Donnie's whipping up that is so focused on Arizona, but then you're just drinking like a Tito's and soda with it or something like that. It kind of
right. There's a big disconnect.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
But something like this not only can, you know, increase the quality, but take that story to a whole nother level.
Totally. And there's a few drinks they make here with it, with Suncliffe at Valentine, which are amazing. In the main restaurant, they make this AZ gin and tonic, which has our gin in, as well as like a house-made elderflower tonic, which really plays on the elderflower notes in the gin, which is really interesting. And then back here at 1912, I mean, they're changing the menus all the time, but I believe currently they're making this cactus martini, and they make a in-house made cactus vermouth where they use the cactus paddles. So again, it just kind of really plays on that foraging concept and just like using those, you know, a local product that already is using local product. It kind of just builds that story and that taste, I think.
Yeah, and we've seen that in so many places. The bartenders are inspired by us or just by Arizona, but like foraging and going out and going on a little bit of an adventure for yourself and then bringing it home, making a cocktail to share it is like
a really interesting,
the biggest reward for us.
Totally. We saw this happen really interestingly. We hosted our first cocktail competition here in Phoenix in the spring.
At the Churchill.
At the Churchill, exactly. Shout out to Churchill. They've been an amazing
Caitlin,
Kel, Chaz, all the team there. They've been so supportive from the beginning. Again, we met them super early on. You know, they have the brew line, which again really focuses the brew line on a lot of local spirits. And then So Far So Good is also an amazing cocktail bar. And we kind of, between us, built this concept of hosting the Suncliffe Showdown, which was a cocktail competition we did in the spring, which was amazing. And the way people could enter is they had to kind of design a kind of unique Suncliffe cocktail, and they'd submit it through Instagram with a hashtag. Oh, okay. And we had such amazing entries.
Over 20 entries.
Well, I think over 30 entries,
really?
actually.
Okay.
I'm going to tell people 50, so...
Right.
Yeah, it was probably 50
thousands
for sure.
we couldn't even count. That's why we couldn't. And it was, you know, like a mixture of like home bartenders, professional bartenders. It was really cool to see people engaged who weren't even like professional bartenders. But a lot of people were kind of hiking up a mountain and like foraging ingredients to make their own syrups, kind of inspired by our foraging story. We're using like foraging, and then they would like submit this insane, amazing photo of it.
Yeah, they'd make cocktails on the top of a mountain. Like, okay, we didn't ask for all of that, but it was so cool.
That's awesome.
It was really cool. And then, we kind of went on to kind of do the competition, which was so cool. Like for the first round, we picked 12 people, I believe.
Yeah, we
shortlisted, which was really, really hard. And then those people had to kind of present the cocktail they'd made online. And then we had a panel of judges, including us, and some actual professionals. We were like, everything tastes delicious.
That's yeah.
I was like, it has our gin. It's fabulous. And then kind of from that, it got whittled down. And then there was another round where it was... they had to make a shaken cocktail and a stirred cocktail under time limit, and it was like immediate elimination. And then from then, kind of, it was two final contestants who was two bartenders that we love. Matt Pladge, who used to be at 36 Below, who now bartends at the Churchill, and Maxwell, who was at Clare Byrne. And they were fighting off, and we had a secret ingredient for the last round, which was a pinon tincture. So again, using kind of a local...
Bringing it back to the high desert.
Bringing it back to the high desert.
You said a pinon?
Pinon, like pinon pine.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I got a lot to. I told you guys how much I have to learn.
It's in pesto. The pine nuts in pesto.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Usually
You
it's
guys
that
are like
kinda tree.
pinion pine, and I'm like,
Pinion pine.
I look over at Eric. I'm like, it's not just me, is
I
it?
was just. I couldn't even hide. I was like, what?
Right.
I love it though. Learning like so much. I love. Sorry, go ahead.
No. It was just a lot for us, and as we kind of just managed to, for us, community has been so important in this. Like,
And this also was a big fundraiser for Cahokia,
right.
which is a really cool
So
art
a lot
space.
of sales on the
Indigenous
night.
art space.
And our t-shirt, they like Churchill made all these amazing like hand screen printed shirts for
Oh,
the
really?
event and stuff. And a lot of the sales from that went to kind of local projects, and so that's awesome. Yeah.
What did you say Claire's background is? Events?
No, she comes from like fashion styling and kind of product development.
She's a fashion stylist, and
Okay.
then she had worked on, with one of the lines that she works with, getting some product made
Okay.
physically. So she
Gotcha.
kind of got interested in this, like manifesting a real object from
Yeah.
styling, making it look good, and then to like, okay, we can actually make something.
Yeah.
So this was like so up her street. She loves
Okay.
making it.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, because those events or those things that you guys did, that's the next level, right? Like that's really cool that you guys did that at the beginning of this brand. And I mean, I'm sure you continue to do it, but put so much out there for people, to make it an experience, right?
Right.
Because that's what people love about craft is they'll pay a premium for that experience. They know people put their heart and souls into it, and they can taste it, you know?
And I think a specific type of craft too, like not to make all of our craft beer producers sound less than, but like with this is a vessel for you to dig into Arizona more. And like you mentioned the pinion pine, and I'm probably still pronouncing it wrong, but now I know that that's a type of pine in Arizona.
You
that I'm gonna
nailed
have
it.
to next time I'm out
Pinion.
there, I'm gonna say to my fiance, "That's a pinion pine," and she's like, "Oh shit, he really does know his stuff." I'm like, yeah, that's
Let's
right.
eat it.
Yeah.
You said dig in, and just kind of while we're talking about community and how we couldn't have done these events without the support of our community. But Dig Deep is another project that we work a lot with. 100% of our online proceeds, we have an online store where we sell gin adjacent things, coasters, cups, kind of whatever, with cocktail kits. And that benefits the Navajo. 100% of the proceeds for that go to the Navajo Water Project,
Wow.
which is run by Dig Deep, which is a huge organization helping get running clean water to communities that don't have that, which is huge for us.
Yeah,
to be able
absolutely.
to participate in something like that
Well, and that's-
regularly all year, every day. We're like doing that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
awesome.
something that is like wonderful about the community is it's not just singular events. It's people putting on yearly events. Like Oso has their suicide awareness beer out right now.
Yep.
You look at places like Wilderness that are doing their malt from Sonagua malt to maintain water in the Verde River to like what
Absolutely.
you guys are doing. It's creating sustainable systems that are feeding back into the community that also I'm sure kind of help you guys, market your product a little bit, but that's not why you're doing it, of course.
Right. No, not at all. It's a project that my mom worked on the reservations as a vision specialist her whole career. So
really?
when she retired, we felt like she had done so much for the community that we kind of wanted to continue it, and we started this with her in a way, like she was out foraging with us. So this was like, oh, we can, and this was a not charity, a project.
Yeah.
That
it's just
she had like vetted and knew that they
an
were actually
organization.
making
Yeah.
huge differences and were worthwhile supporting.
Right. And also, just a really great way for us to collaborate with local makers, like especially when we launched the gin and we didn't know how much we'd sell. It was like, cool, we get to work with this leather maker in Tucson. We work with like a black female-owned soap company in Tucson who used our botanicals
Yeah,
to
she
make
uses our
soap.
botanics.
You know,
It's good soap.
Oh, wow.
you work with Iconic Cocktail Co. who we do little cocktail kits with seasonally. We're always changing them. So it's a great way to shine light on other makers as well. Just in how the cocktail competition shines light on all these amazing bartenders. It's just cool to uplift each other, Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned too how you guys had done research about how things like ponderosa pine were used traditionally and whatnot.
Right.
And of course, you guys pay homage to the land itself a lot, but by doing things like that, you extend it to the people that were here on the land before modern times turned it into what it is.
Absolutely.
Right. And a way to give back to nature as well. We're aware
Sure.
of the environmental complications that come with what we do as well. So it's what can we do just to help? And hopefully it's something we can, as we scale, it's something we would like to be able
Absolutely.
to scale too.
Yeah, it will scale with us for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
As we
Awesome.
grow.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked too much about where your product is available. Where are some other bars that it's at? Where can people get it and bring it home?
I could talk about my favorite bars and restaurants.
I know.
For another 2 hours across the
Well,
whole
we
of
did.
it.
We did talk about. We want to start asking people some of their recommendations. So maybe
Should we
throw out
start
some
at the top?
recommendations.
Yeah,
feel
let's
like-
start at the
let's start
top.
at
Let's
like-
start at Northern Arizona and move down.
There you go.
Right.
Not the top of your list.
No.
necessarily.
Well, they're all the number. I mean,
Geographic.
it's
We're all
hard to
number
list it
ones.
like that. We're just
Yeah.
gonna do it.
No particular order.
Right. It's going to be like, this is my number one favorite ramen spot in Flagstaff in downtown that has an S in their name.
Yeah. All the other ones are garbage. Yeah.
We're talking about Flagstaff with places with S in their name is a good
Shift.
one. Shift. Have you eaten
oh
at
my
Shift?
God.
Oh, I've
No.
heard so many great
You
It's
things.
gotta
amazing.
go.
Yeah.
Chef Dara.
Chef Dara. It's just
Is
an
a
amazing
genius.
place.
Yeah.
And Caitlin,
great
who's
things.
I believe the GM there.
the GM. She was at,
used to be at
Annex.
Annex, who I know you guys
Okay. Yeah.
did a podcast with Nick
Yes.
from
Yeah.
This Place Projects. Again, Annex, that
And
whole
they're
company's
doing really
been very
cool
supportive.
Nice.
You know,
Fat washing.
Yeah.
Martinis.
yeah.
Really beautiful.
And also, Shift is right opposite Winter Sun, which is a really interesting company.
Winter Sun is amazing. I've been going there. It's like a folk medicine. They have all the herbs you could ever want. Great
really?
jewelry, great kachinas. But like we get our Western elderflower through there.
Tincture.
They
Yeah.
get the tincture.
They use a locally foraged, and that's how we get our tincture that we use.
I imagine
in
you guys are at Atria as well.
Yes,
We're at
we
Atria.
are at Atria.
Yes.
So just like all of the best restaurants.
Just
Yeah,
all
absolutely,
just
yeah.
really all
Yeah,
the
with
best restaurants
bricks.
and bars.
And you can buy our favorite shop in Flagstaff
yeah.
is Beaver Liquors.
Beaver
Okay.
Liquors.
Becca
Have you
at
been there?
Beaver Liquors.
Oh my god, it's such a fun.
Super
It's run by
cool.
these like fierce women.
Yeah.
It's such a cool.
Is it in the
Spirit
like
store.
downtown area?
It's right at the top of Beaver.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's just like just north of downtown.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's like a
not
burger
that we
place
needed
up there.
any
I think.
more alcohol stops on our journeys up to Flagstaff, but now we've got one.
Well, the
That's
next, our next, we said we always get to Flagstaff and just go downtown and start doing podcast shoots. This time on the list, we're like, drive around. Let's go
Yeah.
drive around
Yep.
and see.
Yeah.
So Beaver Liquors is
Yeah.
is on the
It
list.
must stop, yes.
They've got their finger on the pulse. They know.
That's
they know
awesome.
the town. She's like, oh, here's a place.
They have a
where-
great selection of beers as well. I mean, obviously Flagstaff's such a beer
For sure.
Totally.
place.
Yeah,
All that
sure.
amazing water. You know.
And it's a drive-through.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even need to get out.
Right.
There's a drive-through liquor store on like I think it's 96th and Shea or something like that. If you guys
Okay.
are not in there, you got to get in there because that's
Okay.
my go-to liquor
Ah,
store.
there you go.
Okay, great. Well,
There
then you
go.
just need to ask for Suncliffe.
just tell
you know?
them.
I will go in today because I actually need some beer at home. So done.
Okay, so Flagstaff. Then we go down to Sedona, which
we go to
obviously is super
Sedona.
important to us because we are, we think of ourselves as like the spirit,
Spirit
of
of
Sedona.
Sedona.
Yeah.
Okay, where do we love there?
Amara.
Amara, the Salt Rock
Okay.
Kitchen
the
at
Salt
Amara.
Rock Kitchen. Danny is making Danny.
Danny, Tom, and Artie, who are like the
Artie.
F&B guys there. They have an amazing. We actually were just there 2 days ago. They've got us on the menu. The Botanical Bee. It's like a really cool kind of riff on the bee's knees, where they use
Herbal
like a,
bee's knees.
like a ginger thyme infused honey, local honey,
lavender in
Suncliffe,
there.
and lemon. It's just beautiful. So
And that
Amara,
patio with
Yeah, I know
a
that
cocktail
too, right?
Looking at the mountains right there.
Totally.
Wonderful spot.
And
That's
you're right
cool.
in town as
Yeah,
well. You feel like
exactly.
you're in the middle of nothing, but you're downtown Sedona.
Yeah, when you go
Perfect.
down, you feel like you're going to like the most exclusive hotel in Sedona.
Right.
It's epic.
And
And it
again,
is.
interesting to hear how, or just see how the cocktail culture in Sedona is really changing. I remember when I first went up in like 2018, I was like, oh, everyone just drinks wine. Like no one's drinking
Sure.
cocktails. There's
Yep.
nowhere to drink in Sedona after 6 p.m., you know? So I
sure.
feel like it's really shifting.
Yeah, in
now.
places like the Wild.
Oh yeah, the Wild. Have you been to
Rascal,
Rascal at the
the
Wild?
No, huh?
Is that a new resort up there?
It's been redone, I think.
It's a
maybe.
redone resort, but the restaurant in the Wild called Rascal is, God.
It's owned by the same people who own Mercer Kitchen,
Right, exactly.
which is kind of a local institution.
Really great food. The fried chicken, any day.
Really cool food, and feels like it's a kind of a cool contemporary space. Like it's also again, like when people think of Sedona, it's very like woo woo, like 70. It's kind of has a certain impression.
mystical,
the
the
mystical, which we
mystical.
love, and
The
like we lean
crystal,
into it.
yeah.
And we love
Yeah.
the mystical, and like our corks have the vortex like on them. We're
Oh,
very into
yeah,
it.
that's
Yeah.
very cool.
We love the spiritual, but it's kind of like nice seeing people like reinterpret it for a new generation. you
Yeah.
know? I mean, there's so, like Sedona, there's so, Della Piani. Have you been to Della Piani? That's down in the village. That's like an
Okay.
awesome
I can't wait to
restaurant.
re-listen to this episode so I can.
Totally.
And
We
we
give
give Gerardo's.
Oh,
No.
Gerardo's.
Oh, Gerardo's.
It's
I
an
mean, there's
Italian
a lot
restaurant.
of great Italian
Christina
food
is our go-to.
Yeah, I was like, are we giving her a run for her money with our recommendations?
I don't know. Well, it's funny because she actually put the Wild on my map, and it's funny all these little crosses between. We were talking before we got on the podcast how you guys had met her for the first time yesterday.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Christina.
Yes, for sure.
But,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, right on.
You know, that's one of the reasons I'm more speaking for myself than you, Eric, but that's one of the reasons why I don't, necessarily write in the magazine as much is because, being a younger dude and not having been to Sedona all these times, coming to people like you or Christina is the best way that you could possibly get recommendations.
Oh, yeah.
And we won't lie. I mean, we've learned so much in the last year and a half. Like 90% of these bars and restaurants were not on our radar previously. We're so lucky to work in this industry, and we'll be like, where bought it? And we go and we're like, it's amazing. You know, like it's not always, sometimes it comes from us approaching places, and often like people hear about us, bring us in, and then going there is like an amazing experience for us.
Yeah, the Salt Rock Kitchen we were in Cornville, just kind of
that's fun.
bopping around doing nothing, like just going to stores. Does anyone sell liquor here? I don't know.
Right.
And we met Danny's aunt was working in the store. And
Danny
so
being
she
one of the
was
head
like,
bartenders at Amara.
You should go over to Amara and see my nephew and show him your gin.
That's
and now
awesome.
it's one of the most like
Best, one of our
closest
strongest
relationship
accounts,
that we have in,
That's
is in Sedona. Is just through that like natural progression. So we didn't really know where we were going either, but this has opened all those doors for us.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the awesome things about the industry is when you're in it, you get to experience it more. But, I was at Alcantara Vineyards in Cornville, or I guess that might actually be Camp Verde, but this was maybe 2 days ago, and there was a couple that saw me doing a podcast with the winemaker Ron, and they're like, oh, you guys doing a podcast, and started giving them recommendations, and I'm like, you guys are staying in Sedona, check out Christina's article. And it's just cool how it kind of bounces, like a few different people can bounce you around, and you can meet so many more people than you ever would have even intentionally tried to meet, and just find cool spots like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And people, it's been interesting for us in terms of spirits. You mentioned earlier Whiskey Del Back, which has been
Yeah, I kind of grew up with Amanda. We lived in New York together. I've known her dad since he had his furniture store.
No way.
In Tucson.
That's
So
awesome.
we go way
They're
back,
awesome.
and they were super supportive of us getting just like, just learning the language of spirits and everything. Just like, or just someone to lean on,
Right.
Sure.
And another brand actually that we were put in touch with through Annex when we went, like that was kind of when we met Annex, it was our first ever day out in the market. And they were like, oh, you remind us of this other kind of Arizona brand that started a couple of years before you. And it's this mezcal brand, Carreño.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if
Yeah.
you're familiar.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like the next day we get a text from Ivan from Carreño being like, Nick sent us your number and we like really want to meet up. And he like, it's so nice. Like when we knew nothing, they like took us under their wing and like, were like, you have to go and meet our friend at this bar.
I mean, he put the bottle in his pocket
and was just like sharing it with everyone.
Gave it to
That's
everybody
awesome.
one night.
And it's
He's
so
so
nice.
cool.
Again, like there's space for everyone and it doesn't feel competitive. It's like nice for us to be able to like love these products and recommend them to people without feeling like we're competing. It's like we never feel like we have competitors. And I feel like, again, with restaurants and bars, like people always like, you have to go and check this place out, like that place, because there's enough for everyone,
Sure.
Well, there's
the first time I met Ivan was so we did the Arizona Beer Book and released that in 2019. We were doing a signing, and he showed up, and of course he's got his hat on.
That was Abel.
Excuse me.
That's
Yes, it was
Abel. Yeah,
Abel.
yeah.
Sorry.
Both of them, sorry.
But he just goes, here, compa, and hands me like a shot basically, or a thing to sip on of the mezcal, and I'm like, this is the coolest dude ever.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if that's legal. This is a tap room beer.
Right, totally.
But it was just so cool, and that's like that to me is like a great story that describes what people are like in the industry.
For sure.
Right. And it also gave us a lot of faith at the beginning that people like believed it. It was like nice to meet all these people who obviously believed in our product.
Yeah.
If like Amanda from Whiskey Del Back and like Ivan from Carreño are going to be like wanting to share us with people they know, like they obviously believe our product is worth it. You know, which was an amazing feeling for us right at the beginning as well.
Well, I think that's the key to acceptance, and because it's a very guarded industry, right? It's a very people are working hard and putting their hearts and souls into it. So I think there's a little bit of that barrier, but like I feel we didn't really experience that because we kind of came with like we brought value, right? We weren't trying to extract value. Like we were like, hey, here we're bringing something. And they're like, holy shit, this is good. Okay, cool. Because if you guys kind of came with bottle was cool and all this stuff, but it's like, oh yeah, we just buy whatever and put it in the bottle. We don't care.
Right.
Like it. So all that work you guys put into it to build it.
Right. I think it's authenticity, right?
Absolutely.
It's like Ryan's from Northern Arizona. It's not just like me and Claire came on holiday one day and we're like, we're going to just kind of take it for all it can, market it, and never really give back or be involved. Like, people sometimes will mess it, when people realize it is just 3 of us, it's 3 of us, we're it, you know? We do it all, from the social to the this to the events to everything, and people are like, oh, and we go into bars and people are like, oh yeah, they really are locals, they knew us before we were making gin. So it's like people know it's a genuine story and they want to kind of support that,
For sure.
Phoenix. We didn't even get to Phoenix
We're not even on I-17 yet.
I mean, Phoenix is like, Prescott. I mean, I think you guys recently said you were kind of amazed at like the Prescott food, or was it Christina who was talking about like?
I am definitely amazed by the Prescott food scene.
Yeah,
it's incredible up there.
A couple breweries up there.
Powerhouses like Superstition Meadery as well. Farm Provisions is one of my favorite spots up there.
Yeah.
Superstition Meadery. John, who was there, made a tonic that we stared working with, and he actually introduced us to our distributor.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
he was with a GM up there. Yeah, but we love like that County Seat. Do you know County Seat?
Yep.
And they have the Barley Hound. Like, that's a really kind of cool.
And Bega.
Oh, Bega. Yeah.
Don't sleep on Bega. That place is really
It's
good.
a little out of the town center, but again, they do a lot of kind of work with like a lot of local markets, local farms. It's a really, really cool spot.
Very
definitely one of our
chef.
favorites.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I am going to be slightly rude here and say we are kind of running out of time. But before we do, give us each one recommendation in Phoenix and let us know if there's anything else that we should be covering. And I will also mention that we are definitely going to have to get you guys back on sometime.
I was
for
like,
more of a
I know,
conversation.
God.
I was like, poor Tucson. We never even got to Tucson.
Or you
Maybe
could,
one of these.
you could do Tucson. Yeah, one of
Speed
each.
round.
Okay.
Okay, Tito and Pap. If you're not at Tito and Pap, you're not eating.
Okay.
Oh, in Tucson.
That's the greatest. You can get good Suncliffe cocktails, amazing Sonoran cooking from like a phenomenal chef cooked over mesquite flame.
What is it?
Tito and Pap.
Ooh, that's all that just marked all my.
love.
It's like right next to our house. We've been close with it since they opened.
And Hotel Congress. We have to, especially since we met there, it's been such a big part of our story.
Yeah.
You know, they've been amazing supporters since the beginning. We're actually in a great cocktail there called Solstice, which is delicious. We love them. Okay, one Phoenix one. Apart from
Phoenix
Valentine,
one.
which we're
Apart
in,
from
which we
Valentine.
obviously love Valentine.
Corn latte, by the way. I think that was incredible.
Yeah, I had the
That
same
was-
one. So good, right?
Wow. Yeah. So nice job, Valentine.
Phoenix.
Highball. We love Highball.
Highball.
Lawns, the Hermosa. I know that's 2. Quick, go.
The Valley Bar. I love drinking at the Valley Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool space.
I mean, there's too many. Gracie's
We'll let you
Tax
out.
Bar.
You guys
Gracie's
gave us
Tax Bar.
plenty. You guys gave us plenty. Yeah.
I know.
No,
We
thank
could
you
just
guys.
go on
Little
and on.
rituals.
Yeah.
It's our
And where
favorite.
can people find your bottles retail?
Small independent places.
Yeah.
Stronger in Tucson and up north. There's
You have a
not
list
too
on your
many in
website,
Phoenix.
don't you?
We do
Yeah,
have a
go
website
to
on
our
our website,
website.
but we have just launched into Total Wines
Nice.
Yeah.
in all of Arizona.
Which
So
is a
there's
game
12
changer
of
for
those.
us.
They are.
That's awesome. Well,
But
now
with-
I know what my next buy
Better
at
get
Total
those
Wine
spray
is.
paint cans, man. Right.
Right?
Totally. But yeah, and as you said, on our website, if you go to find us, it has a list of all our stockists and like statewide. So yeah, please.
With
Both
recommendations in New York as well.
yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Both retail and also like cocktails and bars and restaurants. So all our favorite we're in all our favorite bars and restaurants, so you can find them on the website.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I am so sorry to cut you off, and I'm going to
No.
blame Eric for it because he has a dog groomer. That he
Dude,
has
they're
to
actually
go
coming
home
in the
for.
house for the first time. This is like a big deal.
He's all
for-
bougie.
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I got to be home for my mobile dog groomer. But guys, it was so much fun sitting down and talking
Thank
with
you.
you.
We
We will
really
definitely
appreciate
have
it.
to
Yeah.
check in with you sometime in the future.
sure.
And can't wait to try some of your cocktails. We'll definitely have to meet up for a cocktail sometime.
Please.
Yes.
Anytime.
But before we let you go, anything else you want to add?
No,
I don't know. We hit everything, I think.
I think
we
so.
did it. Yeah.
You've got to meet
Follow-
Claire.
Yeah, follow Suncliffe on social media. We will definitely have to meet Claire in the future. Thank you so much for pouring us a sample of your delicious and inspired product.
Very good.
And with that said, cheers, guys.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.